Greetings, greetings, greetings. Happy Black History Month. We have a special Black History Month edition today. I'm just going to open up with a spoken word piece. We have a special guest. Her name is Simone Cordice, and we're going to talk about her journey in Black history and her life in Black history. So first we're going to start with this piece called Black History Month. What it means to me. Black History Month is an opportunity for me to be free to do me. Instead of dying in the walls of the T-Dot, I am a true Canadian patriot. Black History Month is a testament that I am worth more than a soldier boy that raps in a video, or there's more to me than what they say on the news or the radio. It wipes away the shame of being a slave and tells me I am a revolutionary that saves, saving generations from laws of inequality, marching strong against debauchery and superiority, breaking down the race walls of schools, sanctioning women to work in the office with tools, evolutionists of transportation and communication, creative integrity that goes far beyond the arts. There is so much my ancestors did on part. To society, they have made incredible contribution. Black History Month is all too short of a retribution. By no means do I point the finger of blame, as my forefather has bestowed me a good name. Therefore, I am encouraged and can embrace my potential, knowing that I am heir of a people of such rich credentials. And I would love to welcome on a sister that walks. Her life is Black history. Every day of the month, I'm just trying to invite her on. Every day of the month. Every month of the year is Black History while I'm on the air. It's not the easiest thing for me. I've just invited Simone Cordice. Welcome, Simone. Greetings. How are you?
To be here.
Great. So I just shared that spoken word piece, and I'm telling you, when I think of peace, I think of someone like you. You know that you are heir of a people of credential, and there's a scripture that says, I am holy, therefore you be holy. And I see that in you, that you want to be and do as your ancestors did. You want to engage and know your purpose as well, too. So welcome.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you for welcoming me. And I just want to, acknowledge my ancestors at this time. I want to acknowledge the ones that came before me, the ones that came before us, our ancestors, and so the divine world, because we are here, but we're also just one realm away from that world that exists while we're in the temporal. So I just acknowledge it. Thanks for having me.
Yes. And so this is our Black History Month edition that we're going to do with you. And as I said earlier, I've seen you in our community, from day. You're always busy. You're always navigating, what there is to offer in our community. Within now, you find out the human resources. I just admire you for that. And I just want to go back though into Black History Month. It began in United States, 1976, and here in Canada, we adapted it. And as we were talking before, off the air, that we had Black History Week.
Yes.
Black History.
Yes.
There's dates for that. I'm not finding the dates, so maybe we got to figure that out.
Well, in actuality, I had looked. I wanted to double check that, right? Because it was really the doctor. Well, I say doctor because he did so much, but it's Carter G. Woodson who was the founder, right? So Black History Week was actually what he started in 1926. So
that's the 1996 one. Yes, I saw that.
And then it, as you mentioned, it then grew into, by 1976, Black History Month. Of course, in Canada, back in the day when we were young, we were always behind. We were always behind in the music, and also in some of the movements as well. So the week was happening here while they had already graduated to a month. They graduated themselves to a month. And we, starting, and I don't know the exact date, but in my youth, there was a week that was celebrated.
Yeah.
And again, it was grassroots groups, the cultural groups. Some of them instituted that themselves.
Yes.
And then eventually we started to look at a month. And then, the Honorable Jean Augustine brought it into the officiality. Yes.
Steadfast Jean Augustine, respect.
Mama Jean.
Mama Jean. And you know what I remember too is like when Black History Month, before it was even week, before it was introduced, you had the teachers of different groups, not just Black teachers, but starting to teach, Black people were the first people on the planet. You know what I mean? These things there, you start to hear these introductions. I had the privilege of having Akwatu Kente come into our schools. I don't know if you're familiar with him. And he'd come into our schools and teach Black History Month, Black History Week, Black History in itself, and introduce us. This is how we got involved with Nelson Mandela and Winnie and Nelson Mandela at the time, that movement.
Okay, all right. My situation was a little bit different. I was in Oshawa. So
okay.
nothing of that sort was happening. Not one iota of anything to do with people was even mentioned, unless it was in a negative sense. Right. So for me, it was when outside of schools where I received my education through my parents, through where they took me, through cultural events. I must say, shout out to my father, who is still here with us. He did a very good job of making sure that we had a strong foundation to know who we really are and where the cradle of civilization really was, yes. And at the time, ancient Egypt, We grew up knowing that through him, although he only knew so much, he wanted to transmit that to us. So when I first encountered the stories or the lies that have been told in this country, for instance, there was no slavery in Canada. That was something that was believed by a lot of people when I was in school, in middle school.
They really push that.
And
yes.
This thing of, be quiet, you have nothing to talk about because we didn't have slavery here. So, be happy while they're calling the N-word, and doing various things to you,
Even
so it was out of that and realizing that my school friends or people around me didn't even believe that there was any slavery here, that I started to, kind of question, go home and talk to my parents about it. Like, they have no idea, they don't understand. And at the time, I think it was probably 1990, late 1990, Zenena Akonde had received her ministry in the cabinet, the provincial government of Ontario. So my father said, I wanted someone to tell them, to speak to them and explain. And I felt inspired to invite her to come and speak to the children. And
that coming.
He told me to write a letter. They would look it over. I wrote the letter, sent it off, and I got a response. So that was the beginning, humble beginnings of organizing and executing Black History Month events. And
yes, and it's fun to say the operative events. When I look at Black History Month as sort of like our New Year's. It's like a birthing time of creativity, because there was this big rush of entrepreneurship that began, and showing our creativity. Then we started to get more into the history, because it not only did it bring, teach us about our history, but it started to expose our culture, our creativity, and spark a lot of curiosity in the people. But for a lot of people, it's the movement began, but for a lot of us, it's just a month, a celebration. For you, it's much more. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And, I want to know, like, for you, like, we are in the international, one more year left of the International Decade of the African. And now it doesn't end there. We know this, right? It
Right.
can't end there. But nor did our history begin, our lives be our story. Our stories begin with slavery. We go beyond slavery, but this is the key thing of getting to know who we are. I've gone through the shock of knowing what I'm a descendant of a slave. No, I'm not. No, but you really do have that last name. You know what I mean? Right? So it is a part of the history, but it goes much further. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah. You know what? I think it's the filter we've been given, and that's why we feel the way we do. And for me, the emancipation comes through the identity, reclaiming the identity. But to reclaim identity, you have to know your roots. You have to know where you come from. So this whole idea, and where I see Black History Month now, we don't use it as a tool of our own emancipation. I'm not sure where we're going to end up, because the thing is independence, they say there was emancipation, then there was independence, and they can give you a timeline when they talk about slavery. But we can see from the health and the wealth of our people that has not yet been achieved. And the full circle of the Sankofa has also not been achieved. So the thing is, what was the whole purpose of Black History Month? You go back to the originator. His purpose in this, when he studied history, when he looked at where he was, when he saw his colleagues, his white counterparts, that refused to acknowledge any achievements that were made. There's a lot of like in our generation, we went, even in high school, beyond high school, there were instances where most of us would have experienced that, the silence that comes when a brother or sister comes up with an amazing idea or implements something really genius. And there's this uncomfortable silence where there's no acknowledgement, even what you said, what you suggested, what you did. It's like an erasure. So the concern is, if we don't continue to remind ourselves the origin of the different things we practice and do the calibration and the adjustment to make sure that we get back to the original of what we should have been, rather than conforming ourselves to where others who are not interested in our legacy want us to go, we're not going to reach the destination where we're supposed to reach. So for me, Black History Month is really about us digging deep, doing the research, unearthing things, dispelling the lies, undoing the hard wiring that causes us to be to do self-harm, whether it's personally or socially, in the community. There's a lot of things that we have adopted along the way through colonialism, through slavery, that is not really, it's not endemic to us. It's not where we really came from. That you hear that saying, if you're trying to you're trying to shove a square into a triangle hole, when the babies play and they're trying to fit those different shapes in. You're trying to shape, and it's not going to fit. And that's where I see our community, right? And we can bring that right down to the individual level. Are we fitting in to our environment the way we really should? Are we showing up in the world the way we were intended to? So that, to me, Black history it's key, because when you pass things down from generation to generation, for us, we now have an idea that we come here, we live, we die. That's it. Ancient cultures understood that there is a line that goes, a river that flows. We're not done when we're done. There's another generation. In certain ancient text, they tell you to the seventh generation, to the third generation, to the fourth generation. What the whole purpose of that transatlantic move was, or the scattering of our people on the very land which we were indigenous, because it could be here too. The whole purpose of it was to scatter us and to remove us from a tradition that made us powerful.
This is it.
So that is why, going back, seeing the survival stories, getting the little bits and pieces, and going back and doing it very methodically and carefully will bring us right back to where we're supposed to be, and right down to individual mission. Yeah.
Right. Ah, that was powered. I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Because this is not just about dates and heroes, even though I am going to ask you who your heroes are, because when we find out, about those heroes, we what is it that we like about them? How did they live?
Mm-hmm.
What were their values, right? What like, we could look at Sojourner Truth. We could look at Harriet Tubman. Let's go there, but we can go even further back and be empowered as well, right? But it is that lifestyle, the power from the lifestyle. We've just hit into a time of wellness, right? Here we are on Wellness Wednesday, right?
Yes.
And cultures, the lifestyle, the sustainable lifestyles goes back to whom?
Us.
Okay.
Right.
We have a purpose. We have a purpose on this planet, because every foolishness we do, everybody follow, right? It's the truth, though. Even if we following somebody, we're gonna do it better than they're gonna go follow. We wear our pants down low, the whole of them follow, right? I want to say, so today we've started to share the significance and the purpose of knowing our history, but there's tools in these comedic histories. I'm learning so much stuff, and I'm identifying what was passed on from my grandmother, some techniques where wellness is concerned. I'm big on this wellness, as you know, and it's life, right? Holistic. But what are like some of okay, let's start with your heroes. What is name a hero or a hero? You could give the right term, that appeals to you.
Okay.
So,
some of my heroes are very recent. I'm still learning about our ancestors. I'm still going tens of thousands of years. I have to learn still. So I just stay in the humility and say, I don't know everything about all of our ancient ancestors. One that I have learned about much more recently, of course, is the divinity Aishat. So
Aishat.
Yes, Aishat or Isis, also known or common with the Greek translation. But Aishat being like the mother of womanhood. And you go into the cosmogony, which is something that some people will be familiar with through, different organizations. There's an Earth Center, Asar Aset, and other Kamite or Kemetic organizations. But in the last, say, 3 or 4 years, just knowing some of the journey of Aisha really opened my understanding up to what femininity is, what womanhood is, the power behind it, dispelling the idea that you have to be weak to be this nice woman, or you have the other extreme of being a strong, brawling woman, almost masculine, but that in our ancient culture, our now culture as well, which still exists on the earth, you have women being able to express themselves fully in their role, to achieve everything that they want to, and also the ultimate purpose, which is life from the womb, bringing forth children, but also bringing forth purpose, right? So, that's been a very big one for me. That's as ancient as I can go with an example of the heroes, but or role models. Um, so for me, and just the way I know I am, Thomas Sankara, that was someone, his story, um, knowing how he worked so hard to bring his people, you know, back from colonialism, back from the destruction and the degradation. The vision he had to revitalize the Sahel. Thomas Sankara, of course, is the president of, or was, of course, he was assassinated, of Burkina Faso. I think it was known as Upper Volta before, and they did a takeover, you know, inspired by you know, the revolution in Cuba. And of course, for me, that was very important for me. When I left Canada, I went straight to Cuba. I went to Cuba because of Fidel Castro, because of Che Guevara, Camilo Cienfuegos. But it was not the three of them. It was to go and see our people and find what it was about them that made them so different from us, to stand up against, you know, the big bully, the Americans, to stand up against the oppression. What made them different to do that? And I had read about Toussaint Louverture that was just from them, very inspiring. It wasn't until much later on I studied a little more about Dessalines. So you see, it's like when we want to know about the blueprint towards our emancipation, we have to study these individuals. We have to get really deep into their life from the time they're born through. Because why reinvent the wheel? Why guess and try to guess at it? We don't have to. We can look at their life, we can look at what they brought, and then we can improve upon it based on where we are in time and space. But I find what we do, because we are so scattered from who we really are, very influenced by the popular culture. The popular culture has an agenda behind it. The agenda is to have us at a certain level that benefits the elite and keeps us suppressed. So that
and we keep doing this again.
World, we stay as the entertainment, you know, dance for me. Because dance is powerful, but they had to remove those elements so that we wouldn't be able to take over with the sound of the drum. So there's so many things we have to relearn. I say we should be so busy relearning ourselves and our culture that we don't have time to worry about some of these things going on. You know, I don't want to say, but there's a lot of pushes right now to distract our people away from learning and relearning themselves. And there's a reason for that. Yeah.
Yes. And it's funny you say the distraction and the busy, and the thing is that we do waste a lot of our energy on the racism. I think it was this morning I looked at it and I said, my goodness, anybody to entertain racism is to be someone who is just so petty and small-minded. Like, it's very, very petty and small-minded, the things that racism, that triggers it. Like, it blows my mind. You know?
The whole thing with Karen, just, you know, this idea of Karen, and it's become this thing. And we don't even realize that it's I don't want to use the wrong words, but it's I would say hijacking, but the infiltration of something that one of our brothers and sisters have put in place, and then it completely taken over and blown out of proportion and skewed. And then it has more powerful effect for us. And we're continuing to go on the bandwagon because it's turned into a distraction, you know? So a lot of movements that have been taken over the last few years, reworked and then thrown back at us.
It's funny, it's back. It's we recycle the same the same old, like, I mean, I see the amount of people that have jumped on this Black History Month bandwagon, all the brands that are benefiting from it and what have you. It's quite real, but I mean, for us, it's not about just shopping Black lifestyle. I've been shopping Black well over 30 years,
Okay.
right? It's not about just shopping Black, but we've talked about a lifestyle, the power of knowing our history, our heritage, our culture.
Right.
And you have had conversation as a simple, like again, back to this wellness in Black History Month. I mean, the last 2 years of the lockdown, there were things to adapt. And we had this silly conversation about toilet paper. Remember I was telling you, and I was like, everybody talked about toilet paper, but ours was like, it also even caused contention. I say it, toilet paper. And then I was like, my mom said to wash. And I was like, oh. And then you were like, you shared with me that washing is actually benefit, and I felt so overjoyed that I can share this with my sister, that maybe I should be washing instead of using toilet paper. And yes, it's more economical, and it feels like you've had a nice back. This is our culture, right?
That's right. I mean, this is a perfect example of why our history is important. We coin it Black history because we know that's on this side of the earth. That's how we ended up identifying ourselves. But our history goes right back to what we call the motherland, or Kemet, I don't say Africa per se, but the continent. So cleanliness, I know we've heard the saying, cleanliness is next to godliness, right? But you can't see that in the Bible, right? If you're talking biblically, it's not there. So where did this whole notion come from? And it kind of makes sense when you hear it, like, yeah, that's true. But then you say, well, where's the reference? The reference comes back to us. It is our culture. So I know a lot of us are familiar with Muslims who do ablutions before prayer, right? They're washing various areas.
Oh, okay.
That's why they need their, the spaces in the workplace. If you go down their religious space, you'll see that they'll have the little, watering cans, or, the jugs, because they actually wash their hands in certain parts. I don't know all the parts they wash, but they wash some parts.
That far in Islam. I was like, oh. Yeah.
So that was actually adopted from our culture. The traditional African way of life was to wash. We didn't use toilet paper. We would actually use water and wash the area clean, right? And if you think about it, toilet paper, there's stuff left back. No matter how you wipe, it's going to be something left back. But if you use water, it's much cleaner. So
I feel it's mentally refreshing. It's like
mentally refreshing as well. You have to squeaky clean. Some people even use a little bit of soap. You don't have to, but for that between, the water is washing away debris and different filthy things that may be left back. Now, that has a link to purification, right? You're purifying yourself. Our bodies are made to always expel. So there's nothing wrong with sweating. There's nothing wrong with the excretions. That's the way our body is made. But when it comes to certain spiritual practices, and also having a level of purity to continue through the day, to have easier access to, say, your ancestors and the divine realm when you're doing certain daily activities. Making sure to maintain purification was very important for our ancestors, and also very important for those who still practice tradition that are all over the world, but especially in America or Africa. So our direct relatives who are still practicing traditional culture to this day still wash with water, and they still do their purification practices, which also include water. It could include incense. There's very different ways in which you can do your purification. But the purpose of it was to continue to go from level to level to level, because
we say level able to level like dimensions, meaning?
Right. So we're
Okay.
always working towards evolution of self, right? But we want to be able to um, reach the highest place we can be, and to do that, you need guidance, right? You
Yes.
need your your um, your assistance, and the assistance that we get is not just here, but it is where we cannot see as well. So I'm just going to leave it there to say
Mhm.
that that is the root of where this term may have come from. I don't have the confirmation for that, but in history, it is known that we, when I say we, being Black Africans, if I could put it that way, were the ones who brought the idea of washing themselves and keeping clean to Europe at a time
Mhm.
they were dying because of plague. So we were the ones that brought the idea of just even having a bath, okay? Because that was not was
No.
done. Fast forward, and you can see that in the culture, right? I study different cultures, and I especially study people, and that's how I learn about culture. And you will see that to this day, there are some from certain cultures that did not like soap and water who still skip a day or two. And it's
Mm-hmm.
right because that's where they come from culturally.
Mm-hmm.
The other part of it is during the time we were taken, I don't really say for my ancestors slaves so much anymore. I know they
Yeah.
were taken against their will. Of the things that happened to them, it's because they were kidnapped or stolen.
Yes.
But they also found a way to help, if I could put it that way. They were in bondage, but still they had to do something to try to be as close as possible to the purification they did before. So
Mm.
washing clothes, the idea of washing clothes, the idea of doing daily or weekly laundry and how it's done, that came from us.
Yeah. Even then, that right to the hence the technology that followed. It's just.
We we were always finding solution, and even in the hardest of situations, even detached from nature, which is a whole other area that we would have to have another show for that.
Mhm.
But and the root of us having alignment with nature, but
Mhm.
in the hardest of times, we would find solutions. So even toilet paper, back to the toilet paper, or even the toilet bowl and how it's situated for us in North America. Brothers and sisters are the ones that made it convenient.
Mhm. Mhm.
We had to work with what we had here.
Yeah.
And we were always trying to improve upon things that we saw. I think of the brother who went ahead with the traffic light. Why? Because he was trying to bring order to some disorder. That's what we do. That's what we,
Mhm.
and when you see the way that the situation is, you know, in Canada right now, you know,
Mhm.
who are the solution bringers, right? It's,
Yeah.
but at the same time, sometimes we have to step back and make sure we bring the solution to ourselves first, right?
Yes.
If,
Pirated.
where are we going? We're not going anywhere. So we got to really be strategic.
It's funny you say that because one of the questions that Joy had put here was where do you see the future for our people if we continue on this trajectory? You know,
Okay.
I'm not talking about the negative or the positive, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
you see that like where we are today, even we
Yeah.
continue on the path of knowing who we are, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, even before I made my journey out of Canada the first time to study, when I went to Cuba, um, I had seen where we as a people needed to do a halt. We needed to stop. And when I say stop, I mean even things like our huge celebration of Caravana. Stop it. It's not working for us. It's not moving our community forward. Let's take a hard look at this. Let's sit down together. We have enough experts. We all know how to wine, and then there's some who know more than others about making costumes, the culture of old mass, and so on and so on. Let's sit down and really dissect this thing and see how we can make it work for us, to see how we can use it as a tool for reintroducing culture to so we can have that generational transfer. We don't look for that.
No, we need to look for it.
Else to come in from outside the community to tell us we need it. Something's wrong. But when you come with such a bold statement of let's put the brakes on this, you're met with opposition. Oh, what? Yeah, just stop saying let's keep going. And that's what you see in every area of our community. We're just being led here, led there, instead of saying stop, let's sit down and really talk to each other and see if this is going right. Yeah.
This is the thing.
That's a very good question.
Yeah, and this is that we have been talking. I feel that we obviously have to talk amongst ourselves, even beyond these platforms. The consultations that have been going on for 40 years of anti-Black racism. We don't need to focus on that. They can literally right at this point. We need to focus on the agenda, our culture, what purpose the Creator has for us here on this planet. Because it's urgent and the world is looking to us. I've had people sit down from other groups, and I work for unique people, so to put it, and they be, look, we're waiting on your people to rise. Yeah. XYZ, the earth is reliant upon it. I'm like, okay, why are you telling me? I'm at work, and I'm just like, why are you telling me these things? But it is real. It is like it's becoming more visible. And then we see a lot of times we be complaining about people adapting our culture, rightfully so. They're just smart. They're going in the right way. We have there was a comment here. My grandmother was born in Cuba and her ancestors were from Timbuktu. I was just reading about Timbuktu today. Timbuktu, Maki, one of the greatest empire in Africa. That is amazing.
Yes. And just to bring home that whole circle, the round of where we're really through our history and the culture and our ancestry to get back to the source. The reason why that's such a powerful empire is because, and I wanted to bring up this book. One of the books I was given by my father to read, I think when I was 12, was The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. And I read that book, and for the first time, because I had been exposed, I'm saying 12, but I had been exposed to things of our culture for a good while in my childhood. So 12 was not something new. When I was from 2 and those ages, I was being exposed over time. So by 12, I read this book, and that's when it's so beautiful when you get the truth. No one can sway you with a lie. It showed me the unity of our people, and that unity was from the culture, the chem culture. At the time, yes. I didn't fully understand it. It's only now because I'm actually in an initiation. But I saw that in the book explained that the different people, we had unity in diversity, like the original perfect way of having that diverse group work under a common theme. Yeah. We had that as a people, as African people. So there wasn't division and I don't get along with you, you don't get along with me. We had the respect, and we had certain common things that was like a thread that kept us together. Be very powerful. So when I saw that, I realized I want to get back to that. That was my goal for life. Whatever I do, I want to get back to see that for my people.
Yes.
So,
and now you are actually a part of an organization we'll be speaking with next week, the Earth Center, and there are a lot of spiritual, there's comedic systems that you guys are teaching, learning. Also, I wanted to bring up, to draw attention to the fact that you didn't want to use the word African, because it's not even to say a different topic, but like a lot of people, we have to start to change our language. Like even the word Black, it's such a tough one. I think Black is even harder than African, right? We all can identify, with one common mind, but we are not Africans. I'm happy with First Nation. Yeah. mean? No,
Indigenous
I'm not
First
named
Nation.
after my son because those are my children, right? So I'm not named I'm after them.
Exactly.
I'm maybe Kemetic, First Nation, I can say.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and that's what happens when the knowledge is backing our reclaiming
Yeah.
and solidifying our identity. I always have a great memory when the ones who they used to call Eskimo then announced that they were Inuit.
Hmm.
Here, they
Hmm.
announced that they were Inuit,
Hmm.
the people, right?
The
And
people, the sorry, fair, that. Don't say it, I'm
but there was a power in it in the sense that they were naming themselves,
truth, yes.
choosing the name for themselves. And then the question was, why are we as a people, as individuals, accepting every name that comes along? Now it's what, BIPOC? Like, what is this? Don't call me BIPOC. What is BIPOC?
I say it a lot. I just said it to my son the other day. Like he said, what is
There's so many terms for us. There's so many terms, but the whole point is the terms are coming. People are naming us like we're animals. No, is we have to know to name ourselves, but it's going to take a journey to get back because it's so much trauma and abuse we've gone through. And the thing is, when we don't or we erase Black history, we're erasing the truth of what we actually went through. And when we do, we give ammunition to one who should be responsible to say, I don't take any responsibility. You're all just fine. Accept.
Okay.
Call yourself, even the derogatory one. We like it when you do that, you know?
Well, I'm caught up in the pop. I'm a BIPOC. I'm sorry. I'm caught up in my world. You know, I know exactly what you're saying. All these labels, these titles, you know, like pet names. But we need to name ourselves Kajichagulia because it's literally, if we don't, someone else is naming us.
Yeah.
That is very powerful.
And taking us very far, like the sister who spoke about the trajectory. Sometimes the trajectory may look okay, but it's so far away from where we're supposed to be. By the time we turn around, we can't even find a reference point, you see? And that's why I say we're in a very fragile place right now, because that trajectory is being pulled in such a way that we won't even know where to look if we go too far in that trajectory. We have to go back, you know?
I'm looking at some of the comments here. Joy has also commented that the whole continent of Africa was upper and lower Ethiopia on the ancient maps. And then this is interesting as we're speaking. Someone has commented here, First Nation sounds very superior. But so now that I am saying First Nation, it's not superior for Aboriginals to say First Nation, or for the government to call them First Nations, right? It's not superior for them, but it's superior for me. And this is a problem when I know that I'm both. I am an African, but Ethiopian, Kemet in me, and I have Aboriginal. You understand? Different. You know, we are the people. We are the mother of all nations. We gave birth to everybody. So how can I acknowledge that I'm nations? You know what I mean?
Original.
Right?
I just say
it's my brother or sister.
Yeah, that's what I do now. I'm just like, we're the originals, you know.
And then if we say we're the original, then we're called first world nation people, and they're called the new nation. Like, okay, 6 chromosomes short. Yeah, I didn't say it, but I said it. I don't mean to go there. I don't want to focus on that, but it's just that the comment was made, and I have to claim the truth. Not only claim my name, but I got to claim the truth. And the truth is, I am First Nation. First thing, I'm one of the First Nation. I'm from. My 9/8 year tells me that I am. What am I?
And you're touching a great point right there, sis. Because again, somebody's trying to label you. Who's told them can label you? You know who you are. You know where you come from. You know where your parents come from. The parents have to know where they come from. And then, because of what was done for us, guess what? We don't know. And that is one of the worst atrocities ever done to humankind to cut us off from our lineage. But the good part is we can retrace it. It's not all lost, and that is where these schools come in, so that we can trace ourselves right back, so we know who we are. And when we call ourselves who we are, the answer is Shakira, and that's the most important link.
Yes, as knowing who you are.
Yeah.
And respect to Pimptadan, they meant it in a positive way about the superiority. So but that no shade, sorry. No shade.
Yeah.
Rejoicing with the mother and the father of all nations. Black women can birth all different ethnic groups. You understand what I'm saying? So this is what's up. Facts is here. Yes.
Nice.
Say like mitochondrial Eve. Yes, big up. Yes, you don't know. It's like, this is reality. This is true science, true religion, true history. It's important for us to know. But the key thing is that you've invited me about, since 2022 out to an initiation. I'm like, okay, this is taboo. Because I'm on my journey too. I'm learning every day, and it was like, initiation. I mean, we're going to talk about more with the myrrh, and we're going to find out what a myrrh is, because I don't know what a myrrh is, and that is my questions, because it's not Googleable for me at this time. And but a lifestyle to be Kemet, to be First Nation, it's a lifestyle that can sustain all nations. Even some of the things that we have created to build to survive in the resilience of slavery, some of those things even cause problems too. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. So even that destructive culture, to entertain that destructive culture, we have created destructive things too. We had to create things. Now, if we go into align with our nature and our culture, what powerful things we can do. What are some of the things where you are a part of the Earth Center? What are some of the programs or the layers, the things that we got to learn? Where do we begin? If I go there to the next one, when is the next one? Next initiation?
It is actually coming up this month, the end of this month. So I think next week there'll be a little more information, but there will be some promotions, so people know where to go about doing a class or starting an initiation. I could probably speak on my personal but for me, when I again, going back to Cuba was very pivotal for me, because I was taken to a place where for survival, and based on the conditions, our people were able to preserve the cultures that they had. So when I was there, I was exposed to one of the African religions that they have, and they do is close to what they call Ifa. If you're familiar with the Yoruba.
Okay, what's
in people practice Ifa. So you have Shango. Oh, you can't hear me.
No, it chips out just right there. They practice
Ifa.
Ifa. So okay, gotcha.
Shango and Yemaya and those different divinities that they have. When you see the Cuban dance, the folklore, the Afro-Cuban dancers, they dress in their yellow and their blue, their white, their red, their black. Those are all symbolizing the divinities that they have and follow. So when I was there, I was exposed to that. And because I told you already, my goal was to go there and see what made our people tick. So then I realized that the revolution was possible not just because of, the three amigos there, the hermanos, Che, Castro, and Camilo, but it was really because our people said yes. Because had our people not said yes, it wouldn't have happened, right? So it was that power, the spirituality, the strength of our people that allowed the revolution to be successful. And I was exposed to meet some of the people that still practice it and are viewed highly in the society or in their, you know, towns and villages for holding the culture. And I saw the difference in the children, the Afro-Cubano children, the children where when I crossed over the train tracks, I saw more people who looked like me than Gloria Esteban. Because when I was here in Canada, I had a vision of what Cubans looked like. I didn't understand that they were just like the rest of the Caribbean, you know, 80% plus looking like Black African or a mixture of that. So when I went there and I started to meet the ones who had more melanin in their skin, and then they invited me out one night, and in the evening when I went to meet them, we kept walking and we passed a bridge, we passed a track, and all of a sudden I was like, wow, where am I? You know, I was in a place where everyone looked like us. The culture was alive, and there was an energy, and there was like just a presence, and you saw the children different, you know. In the society, because of the embargo, our people sometimes looked a little bit poorer because, you know, we need certain things to keep our skin looking, glistening, and all of that. But it didn't take away from the fact that we were a power, a presence in that country, and we did the contributions side by side with the ones that we see, you know, out in the diaspora. It was our people that were the energy behind it. So that's when I knew that I had to get back to that, or at least my children would need that in order to get back to who we are. So that's what I kept searching for. And fast forward, that's when I finally found I had started to look into Ifa a bit.
Okay.
I started to receive some information, but to have a place or a school where you're going to learn, it wasn't as structured to be able to find who you're going to learn from, who you trust, again, certain trust issues. And then I heard about the Earth Center, but at first I wasn't too sure about the Earth Center because like, is that our organization or is this someone? I saw a lot of different people. Sure. That was just me looking on the outside. But eventually, when they did come back, I went to lectures. I heard, and because of being able to sit with some of the elders in Cuba and hear what some of the things they told me, it rang a bell. And I said, you know, this is, and I remember my father showing me all those images. Wherever he could find images, he would show me. He would take me to lectures if somebody came to show us sacrifice, which later on now I know is Medu language, our ancient writing, our ancient language. So that all prepared me to be able to say yes. And now here I am, 3 years later?
Yes.
I, you know, still on my journey.
Absolutely. Yeah, it absolutely. But again, it's the key thing is it's a lifestyle that is so powerful for all of us to really adapt. And just as we talked earlier, as simple as just washing with water instead of toilet paper. These things are our culture, our food, the food that we eat. It's not, you know, it's not the oxtail that we adapted to learn to eat and survive. We ate from the earth and we ate, you know, we ate different. I'm gonna just look at some of these comments before we wrap up here. Somebody said they took a picture in 2010 as a instructed before the sun set by an astrologist in the summer month, and lo and behold, my camera pic was an eye that just looked like yours and mine with the iris pupil and the conjunctiva. I think she's like connecting the nature to some of these symbols that we're like that our ancestors have drawn and scribed, and then she herself is now seeing this, you know, feeling. And then big up Haiti to Salt Liver Chill. Yes, and Meduneta, you know. So like these are people, ancestors that are connected to us, ways of life that is connected to us. I'm excited learning so much different things, whether it might be called what is it, Dijong that I'm learning, right?
You mentioned Jong.
Yeah, learning that. And at the same time, I know that some of it is something that my grandmother passed on to me.
Right.
And with the tapping and the cupping, I've known that as a mother. Right off the bat, these were things that were trained to keep my children healthy and well.
Right.
And before we go, does anyone have any questions to give to our sister Simone Cordice? Have you been initiated with a different name, Simone, though? Like when the initiation, does it involve names and
Yes. I actually don't know how to, I have to learn how to change it on IG, but I am Gilera Hentepra.
oh, that's what I saw, Gilera and Deborah. Okay.
Gilera is a pilgrim or traveler of the great
Travel.
God. Pilgrim or traveler of the great God Ra.
Oh.
And then Hentepra is the goddess Hepra is pleased with the so Hepra really means transformation. So transformation is pleasing.
Okay, beautiful transformation. Hepra. Okay. There's a question here from Salem. How can we make Black History Month a celebration of our power rather than regurgitation of facts on slavery?
Okay.
That's a very good
question. It has to do with us controlling the narrative. And that is why I'm glad you brought that up. That is why I have the concern, because the governments are getting involved, because we are allowing grants and whatever arrangements and other outside organizations to even your workplace. Workplace is not us. If they are going to control the narrative with the money that's provided, if the government is going to start to speak on behalf of Black people about their journey, that's when you know we're not doing well.
Yes.
In this kind of environment, it's actually important that we control our narrative, and if it must remain grassroots, let it remain grassroots. I think of other communities that have very important celebrations that are very dear to them. They do not let go the reins of those celebrations. If there's a commercial side to it and NOFRA wants to make money because whatever celebration is coming up, that's separate from what the people of that culture do. They have their own thing going on. The issue I have with our community is because we have had and gone through what we went through. Now the governments, the workplaces, the management is taking advantage to actually control our narrative, and then it becomes this pattern of almost like a celebration with no content. That's very concerning. And then the regurgitation of this slavery is advantageous to them to paint us in a picture of a pitiful people who have no history, deserve the place in life that they have, meaning that you are not supposed to achieve and you ask for too much. And this is why a lot of our Black women and men face harassment on the job. They do not get the promotion or the employment they're looking for because there is a hard wiring of the racism, white supremacy in everyone's minds here, including in Black people. Society was built on racism, white supremacy, as our great now elder who has passed on, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing told us, she taught us. And this is why we need Black History Month, because a lot of our people don't know who she is. And because they don't know who she is, or they don't know who Frantz Fanon is, they do not understand the kind of tricks that are being played on our people. This is a psychological war. We have been in a full-on war for the last, 3 years right now, in this dispensation here in this country, and none of our people are talking about it. But we want to sit down and take lies, promises of money that never comes. So we really need to wake up And one of my encouragements, without getting too far into that, I think I probably went too far, um, to have our off-grid conversations. There are some serious issues. Our seniors are suffering. Our children are suffering. We are suffering. And we are still playing the game. We're playing the game on the opponent's board, and we're going to lose. So we need to get off that board.
We need to get off that board. It's funny. I'm really glad you addressed this in the way you did. I look at the Canadian Awards. That was supposed to be the flip of the BET Awards.
Okay.
And they had all the backing from all the, you know, the big brothers. Everybody was backing it. The moment that they stepped to do out of February month, then they lose all the support. But enough respect to Paul, because he still went on. He still went on. And we have to continue. We need to get off their board. Of the board. We need to get off the board of oppression, off the board of suppression, off the design, and really get onto our board, our own platforms. It's not great. It's just that we got our housework, our homework, and our home. You know what I mean? Things to do. And
I mean,
the world needs.
There's a level of self-respect where if someone was mocking my people by putting on an offensive costume, I'm not sitting down with you to talk about how you love my people. No, you showed me what you think. You've already shown me. Admit what you did and why. So because of the dishonesty of the culture that we're in, and it's not pointing out one group over another, it's just dishonesty overall. It's built on dishonesty. And the only way to really heal is to be honest. Now we see that not only here in Canada, but in the United States, they're reversing even the notion of having what they call Black history in the school. Up to now, today, there's no Black history in this core curriculum that properly reflects the history of our people. Now, people will turn around and say, oh, what about this group? What about that group? Well, I say, just tell the truth and you have everybody in there. That's what I'm saying. The dishonesty is what is ruining the nation. And until there is honesty about everybody's role, we're not going to move on. But are we as people going to wait for that to happen? I say no. Let's start working on ourselves.
Yes, respect. And I am just looking forward to speaking with your Mer.
That's right.
This has been a pleasure of speaking with you today. I mean, we spoke prior to this, but we're getting to know each other more over the years. I mean, again, is it an event, or are we going to start to build communities? And you know, I just have to say enough respect to your pupa, to your parents, who really, you know, planted the seed earlier than Black History Month and Black History Week. And even when we've had Black History Month, I know that my children did not go to schools that would recognize Black History Month. It was nationwide, worldwide, you know, nationwide, worldwide, and their schools didn't want to participate. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying to knock Black History Month out, because it's really opened up our eyes. It's been an awakening for us, a rebirth in many ways. But it's gotten, I'm glad that we're going deeper to know that, not just because we were kings and not because of our ancestors, but what did we do? How did we live? And this is what we can, and the power of it. Yes, I like what Joy Puerto said here. They know all about us because they've done their experiment on us for 400 years. They know. They are in the spiritual world, and we are terrified of it, reconditioned, like confused about it. Like for me, and this is what affects our trust level too.
And I mean,
it's like tippy-toeing towards the truth.
And the minstrels, right? The characters. So there's so much in Black history that we need to know. It helps us to unravel the web that we're in, the prison that we find ourselves in when we come into this world, because that's what happens, right? So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, you can go deep, and that's why you really need. I know we spoke about it before. 365. It's not a month.
Not, not a month.
Life unwrapping
Right.
and also relearning.
Yes, relearning it. And it's our responsibility to be, in order for us to unite, we've got to go, we all of us got to know, find out who we are and know who we are. Otherwise we don't even know what we're going to align with, so we really need to go back and find out who we are. It is our responsibility, and I respect you for, you know, upholding and sustaining and, making that pledge to uphold and sustain Kemetic culture. One love. It's been awesome, Simone. Any shout outs before we go? I just don't want, I want us to be able to post this thing. So any shout outs before we go?
Shout out to, you know, yeah, what,
Or,
friends, Lee, EC crew,
yeah.
community, Thanks for having me so much. I really love to be able to share about my journey because I've traveled and seen a lot. So it's important for me to be able to share because sometimes people just don't know. I have a lot of newcomers, brothers and sisters who come into the country, and because we don't talk to each other, they're trying to recycle the same things we tried 20 years ago. And I feel bad for them. I'm like, oh, it's not going to work. But you're spending all that time and money and begging. Oh dear, and
Mm-hmm.
it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really is important for us, our people, to speak, talk to each other a little bit more.
Yes. Talk to each other a little bit more, have these ciphers off the air, and not only just on the air. We definitely got to get gathered together. I'm really enjoyed this conversation. Looking forward to having more. You definitely got to come back. They say, come back, great queen. Okay. All right, Simone. One love. You guys go follow Simone Cordice as well. She's on Instagram here today. And check out the Earth Center. There's a little branch in Toronto, but we're going to be talking about that next week. It's your host, Lady Sharon, signing out. One love.
Thank you, Sister Sharon.
Thank you.